Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building the world of Windenburg, which is the world that we got from the expansion pack Sims 4 Get Together, and I'm going to be building a modern, sustainable family home. So this house ends up having 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms, and it's built on a 40 by 30 lot. The home also ends up having a home office, a home sauna, and then also a home gym. Now, pretty much this week, I really wanted to build something proper modern because recently we got the sleek bathroom kit, which is basically just a kit that focuses on your Sims bathrooms, and it's a little bit more towards the modern side of things. And last week I did build a somewhat modern family home, but it was like a little bit more of a suburban house, and I just noticed that I haven't actually sat down and built, you know, an actual proper modern house in a while. And so this week, yeah, that is exactly what I did. I am so happy with this house, and just every single room I am obsessed with. Like, just even coming in and taking the screenshots, I just want to, I'm just excited for you to see it, just because I made a lot of custom furniture pieces in this home, and yeah, I really like it, and so hopefully you like it as well. But anyway, moving on from that and actually getting on and talking a little bit more about the build itself and also what I'm doing right now. So for this house, I had quite a lot of help, and what I mean by that is pretty much I've had this one particular house saved to my Pinterest board for, not joking, years at this point. I'll find the house for you and I'll pop it up on the screen now. Now, this house is called officially the Watershed, and pretty much it is this sustainable house somewhere in the UK. I can't remember exactly where it is, but the house kind of focuses on like the ecosystem around it and stuff. And when I say I had a lot of help, I had this picture saved on my Pinterest forever. Like, I've just had it saved there, just knowing that at one time I wanted to build it. But then also recently I came across a YouTube channel, and it was this channel that literally explored this whole entire house and showed you every single room and all the different features and stuff. And so when it came around to building this house, I literally just had pictures and an actual YouTube video tour of the real life house and kind of how it was laid out. And so I kind of based this house exterior wise a lot on that. Now, I will say the house doesn't really end up looking like so much the house in the picture, because if you was to look at the picture and then you was to look at the build, there is definitely some similarities. But basically I was just so inspired by kind of like this natural swimming pool, and then like this pond kind of wrapping around it. There's also some sort of like little hut off the left hand side, the landscaping, just all the different exterior kind of like landscaping details, but then also like function details, like there's a hot tub in the landscaping. I was just so inspired by it. And so when it came around to actually figuring out the shape of the build, I didn't want to replicate the house itself, because the house in real life, it looks beautiful. Like, I've watched the YouTube channel, it's so nice, but I know in The Sims 4, if I was to try and recreate it exactly, it would just be a bit of a rectangle. And so I did decide to add multiple different bump outs and, you know, like little bits here and there, just to kind of give it a little bit more of an interesting appeal, if you get what I mean. But yeah, in terms of like the exterior landscaping, it was just so handy, because I had this one YouTube video that kind of explored the whole entire home, but then also they've got a website for this house which is called, I think, thewatershed.com or something. I'll leave it in the description if you're curious. But yeah, I literally just went onto this website and was able to kind of be inspired by all the different furniture pieces on the inside, and that's why I ended up making so many different like custom furniture pieces. At the moment you can see that I've popped into the inside and I'm figuring out the floor plan. By the way, ignore the ugly furniture that I'm placing down, it was purely just for my mind just so I knew what room was going to be what and stuff. But you can see in a second I'm going to pull out these pillar things that are from Spa Day, and I kind of like built the shape of the left hand side of the house off where I wanted these pillars to be, because that is one of the custom furniture pieces that I made. I ended up making a custom fireplace, which I have done before, but this time round I did it a completely different method. Initially, when I was doing this floor plan, I was going to do a custom fireplace how I've done it previously, but the thing is, with them pillar things from a Spa Day, when you place them down into a room, once it's got like flooring and wallpaper and, you know, got multiple different light sources and stuff, they just added so many different shadows into the build. And like, you'll see the process, but I initially started off to use them pillar things to act like my like custom fireplace, but then in the end I ended up merging in, you know, a hood, what you would have above like your little oven hob area, which normally in real life is meant to catch like all the smoke from when you're cooking. I ended up using probably about 6 hoods, and then also some like little spa day slab things, and then I just use a lot. I also use a coffee table on this custom fireplace. I'm very excited to show. I kind of want to put a screenshot of what the fireplace looks like, just because I'm just so proud of it. I've never built a custom fireplace like this way. I've definitely built custom fireplaces before in the past, but I kind of found my method of a more modernised fireplace, and then whenever I do more modern builds, I go towards that one. But yeah, no, for this build, I experimented. I also made custom counterpieces in the kitchen as well, and then also like custom desk areas in the bedrooms and walk-in wardrobes and stuff. Like I really just made so many different custom features of this house, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because I spent a lot of time on this build, and I'm really excited to share it with you. But either way, moving over from that, as you can see, I finished up the floor plan. I also placed down these little like sliding wall decorations onto some sections of the build. Now the ones that I've used are from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, which I use quite a lot of the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack in this build. There also ends up being like solar panels on the house and stuff, because the real life house is meant to be a very sustainable house, and kind of it's meant to blend in with the ecosystem around it. And so I kind of brought forward the idea into this build, and so yeah, I popped a few different solar panels onto the roof area. But in the actual initial house that I was basing this off, they had these kind of like sliding pieces in different sections of the build, and when I was coming in and I was doing the floor plan, I didn't need there to be as many windows on the exterior to kind of get like a nice view from the inside, if you get what I mean, because I feel like sometimes when you build a house, you might end up putting too many windows on the exterior, but then when it comes around to furnishing, I don't need that many windows. I don't need that many different windows to add curtains or blinds to and stuff. And so in the end, I ended up placing down, yeah, these kind of like wall decoration things, and then I moved them into the roof, so they're all kind of like nicely aligned with each other, and it kind of adds like a nice feature almost to the build. I don't show you the process for every single area that I added them into, purely because I use the tool mod to place them, because I wanted them to be kind of like seamlessly blending into the roof trim. But the way that I did it, I didn't want it to be, you know, sometimes when you're in gameplay and there might be like a painting on the wall or something and it hasn't been placed properly, and so even if you're in half walls up, half walls down mode, you can still see it and it's floating. That annoys me. That really gets on my nerves. And so the way that I placed them down is I basically moved them onto the level above where I wanted them to actually sit, and then I used the tool mod to elevate them down. And it was a little bit finicky because where I was kind of moving them into the roof line, which goes into a triangle, I then had to use multiple different pieces and kind of like layer them on top of one another and stuff, and it was just a bit finicky and it was a little bit of a process. And so I think I end up showing you the process of that on the initial one wall that I did it, but then also I do end up building a little outbuilding, and I do it over there as well, but that one was a lot quicker to do it, and so yeah, you will see that. But currently moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on and I've started making what I'm trying to make into natural swimming pool. So in the real life build, like I said, this house was so inspired by this official home in the UK which is called the Watershed, and they basically had their swimming pool but then a pond around it. And I was watching this video, and the mum in this household, she was explaining that there is no chlorine in the swimming pool. It's not one of them things where you'd get into the pool and then your skin would go dry because of all the different chemicals in it. She was saying that how it's like completely natural, and she would get in there and she would actually feel better after she's been swimming in there, just because her body is kind of like around all these different, I imagine like natural elements and stuff. And so coming around to actually doing it in this build, I tried to make it look like the pool and the pond were kind of connected in a way. Now I will say there is a very obvious pool trim kind of like floating between the swimming pool and then also what I'm trying to make into some sort of like natural pond element. But I actually kind of liked it, because the thing is I could have covered that white trim that's kind of going between the pond and the swimming pool with loads of different like overgrown shrubs and, you know, like built up gunk and stuff over time. Like I could have covered it over, but I kind of liked the idea of being able to visibly see it. And if you look at the real life house, I don't even know how many times I'm going to be showing in this picture. It's going to keep on popping up on the screen. But if you actually look at the real life house, you can still actually see where the swimming pool ends and where the natural pool starts. And so, yeah, I decided to purposely make it so you can still see the almost like the guidelines between the pond and the swimming pool. I did also place down a little tiny dock onto the swimming pool as well, which it looks like it goes from the pathway going over the pond and then over into the swimming pool. And in my head, Sims can jump off it. Unfortunately, the one that I use is just a live edit dock, and so there is no function to it. It's just purely for decoration. But again, the real life one had this thing, and so I decided to do it. Another thing as well actually is in the real life house, kind of by this little like dock section, they have a hot tub. Now from the hot tub in the picture, it looks to me like they've got one of them wooden ones, which I'm not sure if you've ever been in a wooden hot tub. Do you know what? I tried to go in one about a year ago. I went on like a little staycation in the countryside and they had a wooden hot tub. I couldn't really sit in it, which sounds pretty strange, but basically the wooden hot tub, in my experience, I've been in before, it was literally for a matter of maybe 5 minutes before I got absolutely frozen and I jumped out, but it's heated by a fire underneath it. So the one that I tried to use, basically there was loads of different logs outside the hot tub, and basically you would just light a fire, the fire would then heat up the hot tub, and so you can still have that kind of luxurious experience, if you want to put it that way, but it's more sustainable because the way that the hot tub is heated is by a fire and then logs underneath it. Lovely idea. Just don't try and go in one in like January, because when I tried, I got in the water, it was stone cold, lasted about 5 minutes, I jumped out, I just couldn't do it. But in the house, in the picture, they do look like they've got a wooden hot tub, but unfortunately we don't have any in the game. And so when I was doing this kind of like little area, I was thinking, well, a wooden hot tub is more of like a sustainable way to have a little bit of a relaxation area. One, I placed down hot springs instead, and so you can see I placed down a hot springs on the right hand side. The one that I've used is from Snowy Escape, but it's the one that's a little bit more like rocky because we've got I think 2 off memory in the game, but this one looks like it's almost like built out of the elements around it, and it's not so much like a modern day hot springs, it looks a little bit more like a natural one. But over here, as you can see, I'm just coming in and pretty much just figuring out how I was gonna like landscape the pond, and I really did try to make such a conscious effort in this particular build not to over landscape it, because I feel like sometimes when I'm doing landscaping on a build, which landscaping is one of my favourite things to do in the game, which I feel like a lot of people don't like landscaping, but no, I love it. I love adding loads of different trees and shrubs and flowers and stuff. It's proper up my alley. But for this build, I really didn't want to over landscape it, and I really wanted to try and make an active effort to use all the different plants and trees and shrubs and just basically greenery that is in the environment. So you can see all the different like little clumps of grass that I'm pulling out, all the different trees, that like the little bushes and stuff. They're all things that are pretty much right next door to the lot that I'm building on, and they kind of already in the world. I just didn't want the landscaping to stick out like a sore thumb, because coming into this build, I knew that I wanted it to be something that was very sustainable, or at least looked very sustainable. And I was thinking, well, if you have some sort of like sustainable house and, you know, you're trying to be as eco-conscious as possible, realistically you're going to kind of keep the natural landscaping anyway. And in my head, you'd kind of build the house in some sections around the landscape already. Like, I don't feel like this Sims family that live here, they came in and they was like, right, we're gonna have shrubs over there, we're gonna have flowers over here, and you know, I feel like they didn't landscape the build. They just kind of went what was already in their environment, and so that is why yeah, I tried to actively use different landscaping items that is kind of in the world itself, just so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. But over here, as you can see, I've now moved on into the furnishing. This is the furnishing for that little house that is kind of just like off the side of where the natural pond is in the back garden. Now, pretty much, again, this is just based off this house that I saw on Pinterest, that I've watched videos on and stuff. But basically, in their little shed, they had a sauna. And I was thinking, well, we also have saunas in the game. We've already got a natural pond going on. We've got hot springs. Why don't I make it so, yeah, this house also ends up having a little sauna room. And so you can see I just placed down the sauna. And then over here, I'm trying to make it look like there's some sort of section which your Sims could open up and place down coal into. You know, sometimes if you go to like a sauna or a steam room or something, either outside or inside the sauna itself, they'll have somewhere where you can add coals. And then say, for example, if you get a little bit hot, you can just like pour a bit of water on it and kind of like cool it down. I basically just tried to make it look like there was one of them outside of the initial sauna. What I used was very random, but I placed down a wicker laundry basket. The one that I've used is from base game. I then also merged it into some sort of like dine out thing. You know, sometimes when you get your Sims to go to a restaurant and there'll be like a little hostess and like she'll stand there and she'll answer the phone and stuff, she'll take you to the table. I used the table that the hostess or the host would stand at and then moved it into the floor to act as some sort of almost like structure for the actual like little coal section. And then to finish it off, to make it look like your Sims could actually open it up, I then placed down a second laundry basket, but the one that I've used is from the Parenthood game pack, and I only used it because it had some sort of handles, and so to me your Sims could kind of like lift it up, if you get what I mean. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've now started coming in and decorating the inside of the main house. So over here I started off by almost like this little shoe bench area, if that's even the correct terminology for it. I was just thinking that this could be somewhere where in the game your Sims can maybe put their shoes on if they're popping out, or taking their shoes off when, you know, they're coming home from the day. The way that I built it is I use some kitchen cabinets, the ones that go on the wall, and I basically put them onto the floor. I then found this cats and dogs shelf, and then it sized it up so it would basically cover up the cabinets on the bottom level, and it merged it in. I then just finished it off by placing down these little like wooden decal things. They're the same ones that's over here on this wall, but I basically plopped them down onto the wall and then used the tool mod to kind of like put them away, and then that way that little like shoe bench area just had a little bit more like structure. It just looks a little bit more visually interesting, if you get what I mean. And then on the opposite wall, we've just got like a nice little side table. We've got a little candle on it. We've got a bowl. Also got some sort of like flower feather decoration. I don't know if it's termed as flowers because, or it might be pampas grass actually. We got it from the Life and Death expansion pack, which I feel like if you were to look at that object, you would not think that that's from Life and Death, but no, it's from the Life and Death expansion pack, and it comes in, yeah, this really lovely like white or glass vase, and then it's got this little like pampas grass feather thing going on. It's beautiful, and I find myself using it quite a lot recently. But as soon as you walk in through the front door, you've got that initial like shoe bench area, you've got a little side table, and then pretty much straight away you're met with the dining room. Now for the dining room, I am just so obsessed with this room. Like the screenshots of just this one room alone, because when your Sims would walk in through the front door, straight away dead center in the middle is the little stairs that go down to this like table area. It's got these hanging lights. It's then also got a skylight above the dining room table, which if you're curious, the lights don't merge in with the skylight. I made a conscious effort to make sure there was no clip in there. But then also the dining room just has beautiful views of the garden, the environment around it. I had so much fun taking the screenshots for this build. There might be some of my favourite screenshots I've ever taken, just because every single view of the house, it was just lovely. And it's because the lot that I'm building on, like I said, I'm building on a 40 by 30 in Windenburg. It's pretty much on an isolated island, and so the majority of the way around the lot is just like this natural environment, natural landscape. There's a big body of water, there's loads of little mountains in the distance, there's loads of different greenery. it's so beautiful, this lot. And so yeah, when it came around to taking the screenshots, I was having the time of my life. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into the lounge room, and this is where I've started coming in and trying to make this custom fireplace. So originally, like I said, I set out to use these kind of like sculpture structure pieces that we got from Spa Day. You can see I basically got 3 of them, sized them down so they weren't clipping between one another, and then I placed them down kind of like hanging off the ceiling. But if you look at it, it's actually kind of like disrupting the lighting almost in this room, because on the left hand side, the little staircase that eventually leads up into the kitchen, when I placed them down, it went really dark, and so then I tried to line it up by placing down some lights over there in that section. But then when I added in the lights, it then kind of like overexposed the staircase. But then also on the right hand side, currently I pulled it away, but I wanted there to be some sort of like little log section for the fireplace. In my head, they're the logs that, you know, your Sims would use to actively make the fireplace functional. And so I wanted there to be somewhere where, yeah, your Sims could store all their different extra wood for whenever they want to put the fireplace on. But when I placed it down next to the initial like sculpture pieces, the logs went so dark, and then I tried to lighten it up by placing down some like little wall light decoration things, but then it still didn't really help. And so in the end, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and find something else to make this custom fireplace with. Now initially my mind went to, why don't I try, you know, some like live edit posts or something. And so you would have seen I went into the live edit menu and I found all the different like fence posts, like ends of a post that you can place down into the game. And as I placed one down, I kind of made it so, again, it was kind of like hanging from the ceiling. And then I was looking at it and I was thinking, it kind of looks like one of them oven hood things. And then I was like, well, why don't I actually just use an oven hood? We've quite literally got them in the game. And so then I went into the decorations category, and then there is almost like a hanging ceiling decoration, little like subsection. Went into that, and yeah, I found multiple different oven hoods, and then just built almost like the chimney breast using them. The ones that I use are just from base game, but it's really handy because they come in multiple different like lengths or multiple different wall heights depending on what wall height you're building on. So for like the main chimney breast section, I use 4 of the medium wall height ones, and then on kind of like the lower level underneath where the fireplace will sit, I then use I think 6 different small wall height ones. Basically, initially when I came into this room, I was going to make it so the fireplace was going to be sitting on a platform, but then when I was trying to build, the platform just kind of made it a little bit difficult. And so I thought, well, instead of having a platform, which is just making this a little bit harder than what it needs to be, why don't I use the hood pieces that we got for the shortest wall height and basically merge them into the floor to make it look like a platform, but it's not. It's actually just like some hoods merged together. And so on the lower level, yeah, I use 6 of the smallest hoods and then merge them in, and then on top of it I use the Spa Day slab things, which I use these in pretty much every single one of my modern builds, but it's basically this decoration which you are meant to put over like a pond or a little like fountain or a pool area. I did also use them in the back garden. I used them over kind of like the swimming pool section, but I use these quite a lot in my modern builds. And basically I got this slab, I sized them up, and I basically used it to kind of disguise any like small clipping, which there wasn't really any clipping with the hoods on the lower level, but I placed it down just in case. Plus also the what I tried to make look like a platform for the fireplace to sit on is wooden, and in my head, realistically, if you're gonna have a fire, maybe don't put it on wood. And so it looked like it had some sort of like different material that would be maybe like fire resistant. And then I extended the slab out, and then on the right hand side you can just about see it, I then was still able to add in them little like log decoration things. I placed down like one individual object on the lower level. That object is from my wedding stories, and you can find it in the live edit menu. But I placed that down and kind of like sized it down just so it would fit kind of like nice and snug. But then on the kind of like top portion of it, I then found a debug base game just log and I got multiple of them, and then placed it down onto kind of like that little like slab thing from Spa Day. And then I made it look like there's some sort of like fire aerial, you know, like the extra firewood when anyone wants to put the fireplace on. I will say as well, by the way, the fireplace is functional. Currently, the way that I've got it, I don't have a fireplace inside of it, because the way that I also built it, I merged in a coffee table into the section below kind of like where the chimney breast is. That coffee table is from the City Living expansion pack, but normally when you pull it out the building by category, it's got fire by default. So it's not technically a fireplace, but there is a visual effect of having, some little like flames coming out of it. And so initially I was thinking, perfect, I'll use that. I'll size it up and I'll put it underneath the fireplace, lovely jubbly. And then when it came around to play testing and taking the screenshots, I then realised because I'd sized the initial coffee table up, the light source, or like the fire that will come out of the coffee table, didn't size up with it. And so in the end I end up merging in a little tiny fireplace, but you can still click on it and your Sims can still light the fire, and to be honest, it makes no absolute like difference in terms of like visually, like it pretty much looks the exact same. But I did want to mention that I did have to add in a fireplace, but it's still functional. You might notice it in the screenshots, there's kind of like a little tiny like rectangle in the middle of the fireplace, and if you want to get it so the fireplace can actually be turned on or turned off, or if your Sims fancy burning their money, because that's an option in the game, you can just turn your camera, click on the little bit in the middle of the coffee table, and then turn the fireplace on. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now started coming in and decorating the kitchen. I am so obsessed with this kitchen. I've made custom kitchen counterpieces before in the game, but I've not done them this way round. Now again, going back to when I was building this house, I had a lot of help in terms of inspiration, because I was basing this off just like a real life house, and in their kitchen I took a lot of inspiration, because I'll try and find a picture of their kitchen, I'll put it on the screen for you, but there seems to be some sort of like paneling on the kitchen counters, lovely, but we don't really have anything like that in the game. Now before, I have made custom counterpieces and I've used different objects to try and make it look like it had some sort of paneling in between them, but the thing is, the objects that I'd previously used were making it so the kitchen counters weren't functional. But this time round, the different objects that I merged into the counters, they don't have any like difference to your Sims, and basically they're still functional, even though I merged in tons of different objects into the kitchen counters to make it look a little bit different to what it initially is meant to be. Yeah, they're still fully working. Your Sims can still cook in this kitchen. Now the way that I actually did the kitchen counters, I used the ones that we got from the Island Living expansion pack. I wanted to use them ones because if you actually look at the bar counters, you see where the bar stools are. Well, currently I'm just figuring out the ceiling section, but if you look at where the bar stools are, you might notice that the island kind of like goes into almost like a waterfall effect. Like the ends of the kitchen counters, they're just really nice. I don't know how to explain it, but they're lovely. And so coming into this build, I knew that I wanted to use them ones. I then found this Dine Out sign. It's just literally a blank sign. It comes in a few different swatches, all neutral colours, which is so handy. But I basically got this sign and then put it onto the wall, and then using the tool mod, I pulled it away and then made it so it was kind of covering the initial counterpiece. You could still see like the top portion of it, so like the white area of the counter was still visible, but in terms of the little cabinets underneath, where I merged in this sign, I then pretty much completely disguised it. I also did that just because I knew I wanted to almost like merge in another object on top of the counterpiece, and I didn't want there to be any like tiny little cupboards or drawers that you might be able to see in gameplay. And so yeah, the first sign was a little bit unnecessary, but it was just, I liked the idea of, not being able to see any pre-existing cabinets. But then to actually get the panel effect, I use a wall decoration that we got from the Get Famous expansion pack, and then again I just kind of like scaled it accurately, put it onto the wall, pulled it away, and then made it so yeah, it looks like some sort of panelled kitchen counter. And then just off the kitchen there is a small little laundry room. It's got a washing machine, a tumble dryer. I also made it look like there was an ironing board, which I have done that trick before in the past, but it kind of like overlooks the natural swimming pool outside. It also has the landscape in the distance, very beautiful in there. But then also in the utility room, I placed down 2 different hoovers. I placed down, or vacuum, but I placed down one that you can use from Buster Dust. It's one that your Sims would actively use. But then I also placed down one of them little robot ones. The robot one is from Cats and Dogs. Honestly, I could probably count on one hand, if not 3 fingers, the amount of times that I've used the object. It is basically a little vacuum that will run around the house and it will just scan for dust. Really handy. And when I was playtesting, at one point, genuinely thought my Sims were getting burgled, because I just saw some like movement of an evening. I was thinking, what is that? And it was the little vacuum just doing its job, just like running around the build, which is, yeah, really lovely. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now come in and started furnishing the first bedroom. So the way that I furnished this bedroom, it's kind of like you have the main part, and then you have an ensuite, and then you have the walk-in wardrobe section. For this build, I wanted every single room to feel quite luxurious in a way, and so for like the main master suite of the house, I knew that I wanted to have some sort of walk-in section for your Sims to get changed in of the morning, and so that is currently what I'm coming in and doing right now. Now the way that I made this, and again if you're curious, it's fully functional. Everything in this house is functional. Like I've play tested it. I run into one issue which I actually can't even remember what the issue was. I think it was just a case that I just smidged something over just a little bit, but it was that insignificant that I can't remember it. So it is fully functional, this wardrobe. It is very tight in here, but I just wanted it to feel, yeah, a little bit more luxurious. The way that I did it, I use kitchen cabinet pieces. And by the way, when I'm building all this different like custom furniture, I am making a conscious effort in my mind not to use things that Sims can put like plates onto or something. And so for this room where I use like the kitchen cabinets, it's still got the visual effect of having a kitchen counter, but your Sims, they're not going to put any plates onto this because I merge in loads of different objects. I didn't want over time maybe like a plate or two to accumulate or anything. But I got these kitchen cabinets. The ones that I've used are from the Home Chef Hustle stuff pack. Place them down onto the floor, like the bigger ones, and then I got the smaller ones that normally you put above like a little hob area or something, and I merged them into the wall kind of above the initial ones. I then got the Dream Home Decorator rail pieces and then merged them into the counter pieces that are on like the top portion of the wall, so then basically you couldn't see the initial thing that the clothes rail hangs off. I then placed down a few different clothes on there. I then also placed down some shower screens, which the shower screen that I use is from the Sleek bathroom kit. And you're going to see me do it as well in another one of the rooms, because another room does have a walk-in wardrobe, so in case you missed it, don't worry, I'll be showing you the process again. But I basically use a shower screen to act like some sort of like glass feature within the walk-in wardrobe, and I placed down like some shoes down there. I placed down some little watch decorations and just loads of random bits and bobs to, yeah, make it feel like a little walk-in wardrobe. But now moving over, as you can see, I've moved upstairs. I'm currently coming in and decorating the bathroom. Something that I've just realised is I was wrong at the start, because I said that this house has 2.5 bathrooms. It doesn't. It has 3.5 bathrooms, because this is the main bathroom of the house. There is an ensuite bathroom downstairs just off like the parents' bedroom, and then there is a little half bathroom kind of like in between the lounge and the dining room area. But then I completely forgot that, you know, in like the little sauna gym section outside and kind of a little bit of a shed, I also placed down a bathroom in there. It's only got a shower, toilet and a sink, but your Sims can still, you know, use the loo in there. And so I completely forgot that, yeah, there is actually 3 bathrooms and not 2. But either way, in here, as you can see, I went to town with the Sleek Modern bathroom kit. What was it called? Sleek bathroom kit. Basically the latest kit that just came out for the game. I knew in this bathroom I wanted to try and use it to like its full potential. So to start off, as you can see, I placed down the new bathtub purposely in front of these windows, so when your Sims are maybe having a bath of an evening or a morning, whatever your Sims preference is. I always like to get my Sims to have a bath in the evening but a shower in the morning, just personal preference. But when your Sims are in the bath, they've got this lovely view of kind of like the water around the island. They've also got like cliffs in the distance, and then next to it I placed down 2 of the new sinks. Now you can see that I placed down the sinks, but then I merged in one of these like new dividers that came from the Sleek bathroom kit. Pretty much the sink that we got from this new kit is beautiful, but the one thing that I'm not a massive fan of is if you place down more than one, it just looks a little bit repetitive, because underneath the sink by default there is like built-in plumbing, baskets, and I think also maybe a few towels, and it's lovely, don't get me wrong, but if you want to have a double sink, especially with the towels, it just looks a little bit samey. And so basically when I did the sink area, I got one of the new shower dividers from the kit, I rotated it and merged it into the kit to make it look like it had some sort of, I want to say like front or something, and then either side I placed down some little shelf pieces that we also got from the DLC, and then yeah, made it look a little bit more custom. And again, it's fully functional. I've play tested every single centimetre of this build, and your Sims can use both sinks. There is also a little double shower moment in the bathroom as well, which you can see that I've now moved over into one of the other bedrooms, but as I turn the camera out, you can kind of see the shower unit. Basically, I just wanted to have quite a fancy walk-in shower, and so I placed down 2 showers, some sort of like shelf piece in that section as well, and then placed down a few different like wall decorations. I placed down what looks to be some sort of like loofah, maybe a bar of soap, and then also decided to hang some dressing gowns off kind of like the wall section. But now moving on, as you can see, I'm currently coming in and trying to make some sort of built-in bed section to the kids' room. So over here, I use the same kitchen cabinets that I use in the walk-in wardrobe downstairs, but then alongside it, on the right-hand side, I use that same hood that I use for the fireplace, and then I got one of them, placed it down so it was kind of like going from top to bottom, but then I got a second one and then rotated it so it was going left to right, just to make it feel a little bit more of an enclosed area, if you get what I mean. Basically, for the rest of the rooms of this house, where I'd already come in and I'd made like a little shoe bench area, I'd made the fireplace, I'd made it so there was somewhat of like a custom kitchen cabinet, I kind of wanted to follow through that theme throughout the different spaces of the house. And so, yeah, I just tried to make it feel a little bit more unique in this house in terms of like built-in furniture pieces. I do use this hood quite a lot, but honestly, it's really handy. It's just from base game, like I said, but it comes in a lovely like neutral wood tone, which was perfect for this build because in the inside, for like the wallpaper and the flooring, I want it to be very light and airy because to me that is quite modern. But over here, as you can see, I'm trying to make it so there is, I don't want to say custom because I've said that word a few times, but I tried to make it so there is a little custom desk. The way that I did it is very similar to the opposite side of the room where the bed is, but basically, once again, I got the same kitchen cabinets that I'd placed down on the opposite wall where the bed is. I changed the colour swatch of them just because I didn't want it to be too cream in here. It is a kid's bedroom, and so I wanted there to be some pops of colour, and so I decided to change the cabinet colour swatch on this side to be kind of like it's kind of like a pastel pinky kind of colour. But yeah, I placed down some cabinets onto the floor. Again, I got the hood pieces, I placed one down so it was just kind of going from up to down, and then got a second one and rotated it so it was going from left to right. I then placed down some shelves coming out of the hood piece, and then in terms of the actual desk section, what I did is I've got a kitchen counterpiece, ones that your Sims can sit on with a bar stool, and I placed down a tablet computer on top of it. I then sized it down really small and then moved it into some sort of object. And then initially I was going to have a little shelf to act like at the computer desk, but then I didn't really like the way that looked. And so I got the same cabinet piece, but basically just like a smaller variant of it, and then moved objects in, made it look like the tablet was sitting on top of that counterpiece. And yeah, that is the desk. If you're curious, it's fully functional. Your Sims can still sit on that desk and do whatever they fancy, whether they want to play a game, whether they want to chat to their mates or whatever, it is still fully functional. And the way that your Sims interact with it, just get them to sit on the bar stool, and then once they're sat on that bar stool, then yeah, they can just use the tablet. But also in this room as well, I ended up placing down one of them walk-in wardrobes that we got from the Get Together expansion pack. I also ended up placing down a teddy bear that your Sims kids can interact with, alongside with a science table, a bookcase, and then I purposely placed a doll's house like dead center in front of the windows, and so your Sims kids, when they're sitting there and they're playing dolls, they can kind of just like look out onto the landscape behind them. They probably won't appreciate it, but it was really pretty for the screenshots. But something that I did want to mention, I have not been able to mention it yet just because I want to explain how I did every single individual thing, and it's just kind of escaped my mind. But in this build, I did decide to cut out 2 of the rooms. One of them was a home office downstairs, which is literally just a room with, to be honest, a few filing cabinets, a computer desk, and then also a little sofa area. But then the second one that I decided to cut out was a guest bedroom. The way that I imagined Sims living in this house, I was personally picturing 2 parents and then 2 kids, but then there was kind of like this extra space and I didn't know what to do with it, and so I thought, you know what, maybe this family have relatives in a different world and they come to visit them and stuff. It is actually kind of funny because before coming into this build, I had a bit of a backstory that I was building towards, and this is for my save file, I think, and I was just thinking about the individual Sims and all their interests and stuff, and kind of like a little bit of lore to them. But the thing is, with this build, where I've made so many different like furniture pieces and really just played around with the tool model a lot, I kind of wanted to explain the process, and so in doing that, I haven't really got a chance to tell you about the Sims. But I basically made this for the Bergerson family. I'm sorry, I probably butchered that. I'm very much aware, but it's a pre-existing family that comes in the world of Windenburg. And originally, I believe their name is from Scandinavian like origins. And so when it came around to doing this build, I was thinking, well, maybe they're originally from the brand new world of Nordhaven, and maybe the dad's got like a brother or something that maybe will come and visit them. And so it'd be quite handy to have, yeah, a little guest bedroom for them. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which I decorated to be for a teenager. I feel so discombobulated, if that's the right word, because like I said, I did have a backstory that I was building towards, and like I've kind of adapted this family for my save file, but normally I tell you this so early on, and like I'm now coming into decorating the second from last room, and I'm only really now getting on to tell you about it, so I really hope you don't mind that this is a bit of a different way of me explaining the family. But yeah, the pre-existing family, it consists of a mum, a dad, a teenage girl and her little sister. And basically when you enter a brand new save file, the dad is meant to be, he's either a criminal or he's a secret agent. I believe he's a secret agent. And then the mum is a chef. The teenage girl is really into music, and so you'll see in a second, I do try and make some music references in her room. One of the things I've actually already done is I'll place down some books for music inside of her little like walk-in wardrobe section. You can't really see them, but behind the glass screen that I've tried to make look like some sort of like wardrobe door, I've just merged them in to one of the counterpieces. But yeah, the teenage girl is really into music, but then her little sister is a genius, and she kind of like takes the spotlight away from her sister. For my save file, I think I'm going to make it so the dad is going to be a civil designer, which is the career that we got from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, just because his original career just didn't suit him. And I was thinking, well, this family live on the Windenburg Island. Normally I imagine that there used to be like older looking Tudor houses, but they live in this quite modernised house. And not even just my version, like when you go into a brand new save file, their house is quite modern. So I thought, I'm going to take that idea, run with it. Maybe they are from Nordhaven, and maybe they moved to the world of Windenburg so the dad can kind of modernise different sections. In the world of Windenburg, there is already a pre-existing like modern neighbourhood anyway, and so it does kind of make sense for the storyline that I imagine. But yeah, I'm going to change the dad's career because I just do not imagine him to be, it's either a secret agent or a criminal, which I'm actually quite aware that is two completely different career paths, but it's one of them. And I remember looking at it for the first time thinking, that ain't him, like that does not suit him. And he also has the gloomy, slob and I believe bookworm trait, but I'm gonna remove the slob trait just because I made his house very clean and very modern, and so I think I'm gonna give him maybe like a perfectionist trait instead. Still keep the gloomy trait and still keep the bookworm trait. The mum is meant to be a chef. I'm gonna keep her to be a chef, and going along with like the original kind of like details the family, I'm still going to make it so the teenage girl, Sophia, this is her bedroom, she's into music, and so I made a few different references to that. And then the kid, she's just a genius, and so yeah, she's just a little smarty. But well, she's not Smarty, that's a chocolate, but I was going to say Smarty Pants, but then I didn't know if that's going to be offensive, so I just stopped at Smarty. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I'm now just coming in and figuring out how this little desk section is going to look for the teenage girl's bedroom. So in here, I didn't want to do the exact same method that I'd used in her sister's room. You know, her sister had like the bar stool and everything, and so I did just use a normal base game computer desk, but I used them same kitchen cabinets that I've used kind of throughout the build and tried to make it again just a little bit more built in. On the opposite wall, I did also completely speak over it, but again I tried to make a little built-in feature with almost like a little seating section. So you would have seen I merged in a small little ottoman into these same like cabinet pieces, but I just had them like sit on the floor, and I raised it up and placed down some pillars behind it. And again, if you're curious and you saw that, it is still functional. Your Sims can still sit on that little like window seat section, and then in front of it I placed down a guitar because the teenager of his household apparently really likes music. But now, as you can see, I'm moving over to her balcony section. She ended up having a balcony, and initially I was going to put a hot tub out there, but then I was thinking, well, we don't have one of them like log fire ones that I was talking about earlier, and so I thought it's a little bit mismatched and I feel like it's not very eco-friendly, and so I do decide to remove the hot tub and then kind of like extend on the little like campfire section. And then also out on her balcony she has a armchair, she has a few different plants alongside with a sun lounger, and then also a umbrella. But now moving on to the last section of the build, I'm just pretty much going to come in and do the hallway. I always do hallways last just because sometimes when I furnish bedrooms and bathrooms and stuff, I might have to rejig like a door around or something, but I'm basically going to come in, finish it off, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you can just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.